Hello everyone, and yeah, welcome back to this episode of Random Ramblings. It's been a while since I've done one, mainly because I've just been focusing on the podcast and some other stuff lately. A lot of stuff behind the scenes, fixing stuff up. I don't even know what I'm on about this. It's pretty boring stuff that I was doing, but yeah. Anyways, we're back doing a Random Ramblings today, and as the title suggests, we're going to be talking about what is the issue with movies in Hollywood. Now, if you haven't watched the podcast or if you haven't been able to tell, out of me and James, I'd probably say James is the go-to person to talk about movies. He just watches more than me. He's got a wider selection of movies, and although I guess everyone's biased in their own way, he tends to try and be quite objective in his views. But I just thought I'd do this video because there's some stuff I want to talk about. So yeah, the main thing, in my opinion, that affects movies is actors' egos. Now, if you don't know what that means, it's pretty much just what an actor wants to portray themselves on the big screen. So, there's some actors who want to be like the hench guys who never lose a fight. There's some actors who want to be like romantic types. There's some actors who aim to appeal to certain audiences. That kind of scene and all that. So the main sort of thing I was going to focus on today was fight scenes in movies and how they really do affect, basically affect the outcome of it, and how actors can just drastically change a movie just based on their own ego. So let's just get right into it. I'm already nearly 2 minutes in, so yeah, let's just get right into it. So a recent movie that's come out, Hobbs and Shaw. It's part of the Fast and Furious series of movies. Not my favourite series, if I'm being honest with you. I don't want to get into it now, but it just seems like a movie series that's made for people who like cars and like explosions. But you can like whatever you want. Not having a go at you for it. But yeah, I was just looking up this thing the other day, and I just started reading this article on that, and it was about Vin Diesel. If you don't know who Vin Diesel is, there's two bald guys now in Fast and Furious, but he's the main character basically out of the Fast and Furious movies. But basically, what he tried to do for fight scenes in movies he was in, he tried to devise this system where he could label fight moves as numbers. So, for example, a kick could be 1 point, a punch to the face could be 2 points, being hit with a bottle over the head could be 5 points. Just point systems for fight moves basically, and this was just basically going to make it a lot easier to weigh up how even a fight is. So you could say, well, alright, Vin Diesel has dealt 10 points worth of damage to The Rock, because The Rock's in a lot of Fast and Furious movies now, so The Rock will have to deal the equivalent amount of damage back. So Vin Diesel might have gone one kick to the head, which could be 1 point. He could have done 2 punches to the face, that's 4 points, and then he could have hit him over the head with a bottle, that's 10 points altogether. So then The Rock would have to do maybe like I'm just trying to do maths off the top of my head, but like 5 punches, so that would equal 10 points. So you just sort of even it out basically. I've just made that really complicated, but basically he just tried to make things even in fights. But yeah, basically this was devised by him, or it was tried to be devised by him, because he didn't do it in the end because it was really complicated. But it was just a way to make fights even, and also it sort of reflected a lot of their egos, because a lot of actors don't want themselves to appear weak in movies. I think there's something like a quote from The Rock saying he's had to learn to deal with two alphas on the screen. It's so weird and cringy. But he was talking about him and Vin Diesel because they don't get along or something, or they haven't got along in the movies. And this is why a lot of movies follow a very simple and very easy to follow fight pattern, because in a lot of these movies it's incredibly predictable what's going to happen. You see two massive people, I'm not calling them like massive in terms of like weight or whatever, I'm just saying like built people about to have a fight, and you can probably tell, right, one of them is either going to completely dominate, or they're just going to end up like walking away. And this is pretty much why, because a lot of fights do follow a very simple format of a quick brawl with a handful of punches, maybe a few kicks, like not too many moves in there. And then the villain and the protagonist will somehow be split apart. So I'm picturing a scene out of the I think it's Fast 5, is it called? Anyway, the 5th Fast and Furious movie, where I think The Rock and Vin Diesel, they basically, the car park that they're fighting on splits apart, and they physically cannot fight anymore because they've been split apart. It's basically a way just to end a lot of these fights between two actors who don't want to sort of compromise. They just end it in a draw because it's just way easier to do. Because as a lot of I think I've said this just before this as well, but a lot of actors, they don't want to appear weak on screen. They don't want to appear like they've been beaten, and they'll only sort of allow very, very light wounds to themselves. So Vin Diesel, Jason Statham and The Rock, they've all had it signed into their contracts saying that they can receive light damage, I think, so nothing too intense. So I think The Rock in the Fast and Furious movies, the ones I've seen anyway, the most damage he sort of gets is he gets a bloody lip, and in Fast and Furious 7 his arm goes into a cast because he jumps out of a 30-story building or something. But he hasn't broken his back, he hasn't done any other damage. He just has a cast and then he breaks the cast off, and it's just basically a way to make him appear strong and all that, so he doesn't want to appear weak. And some other stuff as well that The Rock has put into his contract is he can't get left bloody on the ground, and pretty much he can only sustain very light damage. So a few punches, a few kicks, but overall he's the guy who's dominating. It's almost like everyone knows he's the strongest, he's the best, but the guy who's sort of beating him in the moment he's just a bit too quick for him, then he catches up. That's the sort of thing that they sort of try to go for in a lot of these movies. So now that you know this, it's why does it make such a big difference to Hollywood, and how can it affect the plot of movies and basically the overall outcomes of these movies? It's because this is such a trivial and just simple matter. It's solely based around the actors' egos, and pretty much it's just them thinking, I want to be a strong person on screen so people believe I'm a strong person in real life. I just need to clear this up here. I should have put this earlier in the video. Obviously everyone is entitled to their own opinion, everyone can do what they want, people can decide to take roles that they want, no one's stopping them. And the amount of effort as well some actors put in, the amount of training, like bodybuilding, stuff like that a lot of these actors have to do before a movie set and during the shooting of a movie is pretty intense. So I'm not having to go at anyone at all here, but it's just the point I was trying to mention was, although actors can choose whatever they want, what they do choose is based basically on how they want people to see them, which as a movie overall is a bit weird. It's like two very negative or two very different things colliding. It's very bizarre. Now the issue that I see pretty much with all of this is pretty much the rounding off point, is that actors' egos, or a lot of them, tend to be kind of weak or shallow. They can't accept anything really besides them winning. So picture a movie with The Rock in, he pretty much wins in every movie he's in, let's just be honest. And this is why in a lot of other actors as well, I'm not going to name any others because I can't think of any off the top of my head, basically in all their movies they win regardless of plot, storyline, when it's set, who they're playing, everything like that. They always win, and it's just so predictable. So just off the top of my head, if we take The Rock for example, in pretty much every movie he's the main role in, he's either a normal member of the population or someone who just happens to be dragged into something without him knowing, or he's a really specialist thing. So I know he's in a few movies where he's like a spy or something, or like an agent of some kind. He then has a run-in with what turns out to either be the bad guy or the main sort of, or the secondary characters really of the movie. And then they have a quick brawl at some point not too long after this, which pretty much The Rock wins, but the bad guy gets away. And then right at the very end of the movie, he defeats the bad guy. That's pretty much how all of his movies end. Yeah, I was going to make a joke about him being Black Adam or something, saying that he's only signed on for it just to, you know, show that he can win. But it's pretty random. I don't really know where this is going. I don't know if I'm going to upload this, but yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know anything at the moment. So hope to see you on the next podcast, which should be out Friday when I'm recording this. So that's like 3 days away because it's Tuesday at the moment. So so yeah, hope to see you on Friday, and I won't reveal what we're talking about to keep a surprise. But yeah, see you then.